Hey guys, Legendary Maniac. Today I am here reviewing my driving review of my car. Remember 6 months ago or 2 videos ago, I reviewed this car with the exterior and the interior, but I never actually drove it, so I thought I'd review driving today. So if you look over here, this is the 6-speed manual, right? We got our nice gauges down here. So in terms of the first impressions right now, you'll notice there's not the best visibility. That's always been a problem with these things, but you get used to it within the first week you drive it. This one has the sunroof, so if you want extra lighting, you got it. And yeah, we'll just get going. So obviously, I'll just start driving. So one thing you'll notice right away when driving this car is that the clutch is extremely heavy. And the problem with that is if you're a new driver, it's a pain in the butt to learn. So, but after a while, you'll get used to it. So, the car is very good at accelerating. Don't let it be fooled, this is the V8 model, so it's not bad. It turns really well. And if you have a working MAF sensor, it shifts really well too. So, it is what it is. So yeah, taking turns, the only complaint you'll have on the turns, you'll notice the suspension is pretty good and optimal for daily use. The thing you'll not like to notice is the fact that the seats are kind of crap. They're good for like daily driving, but if you're trying to push this to its limit, you'll feel yourself moving around in the seat. And it's just not the best for optimal use. The best thing about this car and the worst thing about this car, at least in terms of like driving, is you have the numbered speedometer, but your regular speedometer goes in terms of 20 miles an hour. So 20, 40, 60, 80. So it's really hard to get an accurate read off of the mechanical one, but the digital one reads great. So I'm driving around here. Hopefully I can find a street that's main road, but all right. So another thing with this car too is the brakes are awesome. You got Brembo brakes, which even on this car, they're heavily worn right now, so they actually need to be replaced, but they still stop on a dime. So we're talking almost worn brakes right now, and they still stop really, really well. So we'll get back on the road, and I'll show you some acceleration. With this, make sure everyone's clear. Get around to it. So definitely nothing to disappoint in this car. The Mustang of the same year was the 4.7. It wasn't impressive, but the next year after, Mustang came out with the proper competitor. So. And see, that's pretty good acceleration right there. The thing that's deceptive about this car is being big, you don't feel the speed as much. You'll notice that really quickly. You won't notice it. You'll be going like 40, 50 miles an hour sometimes, and you're thinking you're going 30. So, just always be mindful of that. It's always a very big thing with this car. Like I said, even though visibility is not the best in this car, you're still able to see your surroundings pretty well. So, the one thing I always loved about the LS engines, they always sound so great. Actually, I'll roll up the window so you can hear me a little better, but it's the one thing I love is they're such a good sounding engine. Perfectly tuned. Like I said, if you're to compare the cars in this price point for 20 grand, which is how much this is worth, you're talking about a C5 Corvette Z06 and maybe a base model C6 Corvette. With all of those in mind, if you're looking for purely performance, I would suggest the Corvette. The Corvette's going to be better in every way. And personally, if you're looking for an LS3 Corvette, obviously go with the C6, but for a car that, if you like the look of this car and you're wondering, oh, am I going to lose a lot getting the Camaro over the Corvette? You're really not. You're gonna have just as much fun in this car. Sure, if you're going for race numbers, this car is not the car to go for. It is definitely noticeably heavier than its Corvette companions. Like the C5 Z06 weighs 3,100 pounds. This car weighs almost 3,800. So, in terms of full potential with the weight in mind, it's not as good, but the engine is still great. There is a trick flow kit you can buy for this car. Get it up to 580 horsepower guaranteed. Stuff like that makes this car still really fun to drive, and keeping in mind that you only need to spend like 2 or 3 grand to make it have more horsepower than its top model, the ZL1 or the Z28, is pretty nice to know. Another thing too, living in Massachusetts, there's a lot of bumps on the road, and this stock suspension seems to handle it pretty well for a sporty car, a muscle car. The one big thing to keep note with this car is it has fully independent suspension, which means going over bumps is also good, but also means going through turns, it feels a lot more connected to the road. However, this does mean when you're building a drag racing car, this car is probably going to be limited with that. So for the Camaro, this is obviously the most track-oriented of its time, 2010. But if you're looking for more of a drag racing type Camaro, I would say you are definitely more better off with the older models, if you're gonna put like a racing engine in it or something. But yeah, in terms of, like I said, in terms of visibility, like I said again with the turns, you know, you could still see just fine. It's not the worst in the world, but it's definitely noticeable if you go from your daily driver to this all the time. So, but the best part about this car is, like I said, being fast. You never have to worry about people running into you or you know, cutting you off, because you can just, you know, give it some gas and you're all right. So, however, no matter what car you have, traffic will always still be very existent. So it is what it is. Back on the road we go. So another thing with this car, when I first got it, it kind of ran a little rough, and I thought it was just how Camaros ran. If you ever buy one, check your mass airflow sensor. This car ran very rough with a bad airflow sensor, and it was giving the car the incorrect fuel and air ratio. So when you buy this car, check for that. Also check for, of course, you know, the basic things like the brakes and the rust in the exhaust and all that. So we'll go back round over here, and I'll give you my full honest review. In general, I'd say this car is just amazing to drive. With the other cars I've driven quite a few already. I've been driving a few around, but this is still, like I said, this isn't just a looks car. This car does perform when you want it to, and that's the beauty of it. It performs when you need it to. This car takes its job very seriously, and that's a big benefit. If I had to give it a full driving score out of all the cars I've ever driven, I'd give it like a 7.5 out of 10, which seems low for, you know, your dream car. But I just, knowing that for terms of other drivability, like the C5 Corvette, obviously being faster and better handling, almost the C6 is definitely little leagues ahead. Definitely keeps that in mind. But in terms of daily use in this car, it's definitely a lot easier to use in Massachusetts due to the fact it is higher off the ground. But like I said, if you're looking into wanting a Camaro over the Corvette for the look value, thinking you're going to risk performance, you are not going to lose that much. And that's the fun part. This car is still very fun to drive. I'd say if not just as fun as the Corvettes. Just because the numbers are slower doesn't mean it's any less fun. And that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.